So my name is Nevo Alva. I'm the founder and CEO of a new startup called Acumen. Our mission in Acumen is to help software teams to go from putting out fires to delivering software on time. And one of our first free products is GoRetro, which is an online retrospective tool for remote teams to do efficient retrospective meetings in a changing reality of COVID-19 and working remotely. So that's me. Previously, I worked in several other startups. My previous company was Visual Lead, which was acquired by Alibaba. And yeah, that's me. I'm based in Tel Aviv.
Awesome. Hey everyone, my name's Ben. I'm a Scrum Master and an Agile coach. I'm currently working at Vodafone in the UK, in Vodafone Digital, specifically for one of Vodafone's kind of child brands called Voxy. Voxy is aimed at the youth market. We have a unique proposition where we offer unlimited social media browsing for our customers. So it's a very cool brand, very cool proposition. Check it out. I'm also the founder of a website called agileavengershub.com. I got together a few friends a couple of years ago and said, let's put some resources out there for the rest of the world, because not everyone gets access to training and agile coaches in the way that we did. So we've got a bunch of followers on social, and we just try and make agile tools and resources really accessible to those who want to use them. And we're starting to look at doing more consultancy, more agile coaching and digital consultancy through Agile Avengers. I'm currently based in the UK, so I've been in lockdown now for a little while, so loving the home office. But a pleasure to be chatting to Nevo today about agile stuff.
That's super cool. By the way, same in Israel. We are also in lockdown. We were hoping to have it for 2 weeks. For now, it's already 5 weeks. But yeah, that's our new world, I guess. Let's go through some questions to hear your view.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the first question is around the COVID. What have been the most unexpected changes that you have encountered in your software development process, let's say post-COVID?
Yeah, it's a good one. I'll caveat all of my answers by just mentioning that the teams that I predominantly work with are quite broad digital run teams and kind of business teams. So we will have very cross-functional teams that cover front-end software development, analytics, e-commerce, brand and marketing propositions. So yeah, the teams that I work with are quite broad. They're not just limited to software dev, which is interesting and sometimes challenging from an agile perspective. But I'll just mention that I don't actually think that we've had any drastic changes to our process, to our development process since COVID. And I say that because we were quite fortunate in that we had a few years under our belt before COVID-19 hit, where we were using agile processes. So we use a lot of Scrum. We kind of reorged into a Spotify type Scrum at scale model a few years ago, which we've iterated. But most of our teams that we work with have been kind of well practiced in Scrum or Kanban before we moved to remote working, and all the digital tools were set up. So actually, in terms of the way that we work, nothing really changed apart from the fact that everyone was working from home. We were still using some kind of task management platform like a Jira or a DevOps. We were digital file sharing, using Microsoft Teams or Slack. And so in terms of the way work got done, nothing really changed. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that's surprised me is just how much we have actually needed social interaction. So really having to make the most of video conferencing like Zoom or Teams, and having video on so that you can see each other face to face. and that you can talk face to face, because that's actually something we took for granted. So yeah.
What do you think the effect of it?
We're naturally, sorry, I have a baby girl who's at home today.
That's
so
okay.
if you can hear
some
some whining in the background, she's probably just keen to go for a walk. But yeah, I think we're naturally very sociable people, and even those of us that prefer our own space, I don't think we want to be in our own space for 24 hours a day for 9 months. So I think that's now dawned on us that actually we do need social interaction. And I believe the BAU, the business as usual type work and processes, they can carry on quite easily remotely. But actually, it's that collaborative, creative work that happens best when you're gathered around a whiteboard or you're throwing ideas around across the room. That stuff has struggled. That's what kind of we miss out on when we're working from home. You might be chatting at lunch about the latest Netflix show that you're watching, and it's those kind of conversations that spark your creative mind. I think that's what we've missed.
Yeah, I agree. I can share your feelings. When it comes to the daily execution and the day-to-day work, and yes, we have tasks. We do them. Everything looks nice. Productivity looks nice. But then when it comes to innovation, then I totally agree. It takes more than one person in a room to generate innovation. And I think that's one of the most interesting trends in the world, would be to see how innovation got affected by this anti-socialism, I would say. Okay. And if you should choose one lesson that you learned, I know you said things kind of work the same, but still there are plenty of challenges which came with fully remote, and you mentioned one of them. What would be the lesson that you took from this last year?
It's probably, there's a few. The one that springs to mind is less work focused, but it's more around personal well-being. And what I noticed, and certainly a lot of team members, development team members noticed, is just how much our kind of physical, mental well-being was being affected by not being in the office and kind of working remotely. And for me especially, it was a physical well-being thing. Going from commuting into an office, moving around the office a lot, you're up and down out of your desk all day, physically you're moving and you're very active. And now all of a sudden you could be 8, 10, 12 hours a day just sat hunched over a laptop. All your meetings are on a laptop, all your work is on a laptop, your entertainment is on a laptop or a screen. And so all of a sudden you're just sedentary for a very long period of time. And that it's caused aches and pains. It brings you down kind of mentally as well when you don't get exercise, don't get fresh air. And so we've really had to work, the work and our day-to-day sprint progress has been fine, but we've had to really work on making sure that everyone is feeling happy and feeling healthy and active. And that, that kind of, that well-being has a direct influence on the quality of the work we produce. If we're all miserable, we won't put as much effort and energy into our work because we're not feeling good in ourselves. And so as fluffy as that sounds, the biggest learning for me is probably from day one to have really good an exercise routine, have a good kind of lunch routine where you get away from the laptop, get a break from the screen, give your eyes a rest, check in with teammates and colleagues, whether they're going for a walk and having a phone call whilst out walking, rather than doing a conference call on your laptop, for example. It's all that sort of stuff which I think is harder to implement later once you're in a bad routine than it would be to have put that in place from day one. So yeah, that's probably me. What about you, Nevo?
Let me answer like this. Do you have kids? You have
Yes.
kids, obviously, but how old are they?
1.5.
1.5 years. Okay. So I think one of the key factors for me is that I have 2 kids, 4.5 and 8.5,
Okay.
which forces me to to go out and exercise if I'm at home, because kids, they get crazy at at a small apartment, so we have to go out at least once or twice a day, and it keeps me sane, I would say. So that's how I see it, and yeah, we talked before about creativity and innovation, right? And I'm curious to know, like, how do you think, if you should recommend other teams how to deal with it, how to create creativity, how um, to encourage innovation? Do you have any thoughts about how to do it, how to deal with this challenge?
Yeah, funny enough, I was talking to a friend about this the other day because I felt myself, my own creativity just dip this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I get a lot of my kind of inspiration from, different environments. So even traveling around, going to different places, different places for meetings, meeting new people, being in different environments would spark my creativity. And actually just being in the same place all day, every day, in my kind of home study has, I think, just inhibited the creative process in my own mind. So, and I think we've noticed that across team members sharing similar thoughts and sentiment. And so, as much as you can in the world that we're in today with COVID-19, we've just been encouraging people to try and get out and to have time for yourself. We've had at Vodafone, there was a big drive for what we've called me time, which sounds a bit fluffy, but actually it's just taking time to go and do things that you enjoy and get away from the desk and just recharge. And that has so many benefits, one of which is to your creativity and your innovative thinking. We need to get away and do some exercise. We need to go out for walks, be in nature and recharge. And yeah, that's
do you think about things like virtually meet people? I mean, I can't meet all my friends
yeah
in the lockdown, and we can't, like, last week we did like all the gang, not work friends, like all my other friends. So we set a Zoom call, super weird because it's a Zoom call, it's like work thing, and we get together and we like drink and we talk as if we meet. It was super weird, but I guess we need it, and I guess it can help us get out of the so-called boring routine. You find yourself do this as well, or it's just me?
No, we've had lots of social stuff. Me and my wife and friends having social Zoom calls outside of work, and we've done lots of social stuff within work as well. So, Friday afternoons, kind of end of the day, we've often had the last hour of the day where we just jump on Zoom together and we have a beer and we'd, play some kind of games virtually. You can, play Pictionary online now. There's some good apps and web apps and stuff which enable you to have a laugh together. And it's not quite the same as the real thing, but it's good to have some social time together, which is scheduled, because otherwise you might not necessarily get that. Whereas when you're in the office, you naturally get times, around lunch or the end of the day where you go for a drink or you'd have some social time. So we've found, like you said, you actually have to schedule in social time at the moment, which is really healthy on a number of levels.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's go back for a second to talk about maybe, more about retrospective, less maybe about the remote thing and the COVID, because there are some things we still deal with and we still try to get better at, I guess. I'm not sure you're familiar with the term blameless. I've heard it quite a few times lately. And I think when a group of people work together, and by nature things are not always as they planned, or we are not meeting all of our goals on time and as we wanted. So there's a natural tendency of the average person, I would say, to find the blame in other places or blame other people. And I think one of the most important cultural behaviors that I would want to encourage is blameless culture, where I should, look at my goals as not my personal goals, but as the team goal, and think about it and believe in it, that we are all working together towards a similar goal. From your experience, do you face this kind of challenges with teams?
Yes, I think there's a couple of aspects that we've seen and experienced kind of blame culture go up and down. So top down kind of directions and orders and changes made in from leadership, that they can feel like a blame that goes up and down, as well as sometimes a blame that goes across horizontally between different teams. And we found there's a couple of things that make a huge difference, and we haven't got them perfect yet, but one is, I think you touched on it, but objectives and key results. So if you share a common understanding of what the goals are and what the objectives are across teams and across the organization, it makes it a lot easier to align on what you're doing and be pulling the same direction. And that definitely helps, up and down. Another aspect is building relationships across teams and being transparent with your workflow and your processes. So one of the really good things about Agile is a level of transparency in terms of your backlog and priorities and your progress. So, if you're an Agile team, you might have a Kanban board or a Scrum board, and you've got your user stories or your features or your epics, and they're moving across, your board, and you can see what's coming up, you can see what's in progress, you can see what's blocked or being tested and what's done. And actually, when you invite other teams around to come and view your progress and be involved in that process, and you give them some transparency, it then becomes easier to have tough conversations around priority and everything else, because they can see what's going on from your side and your team, and you can see what's going on in their team, and all of that stuff leads to a sense of collaboration and a sense of we're on the same side, we have an understanding. And it slowly starts to take the blame away, because what we've noticed is very easy to cast blame when the person that you're talking about isn't necessarily close to you, or you don't know who they are. It's very difficult to blame someone when you're their friend, or you've got a good relationship with them, or you spend a lot of time with them. Because once you do those things, you build empathy and you understand things from their perspective, and you start to see things from an us rather than a me and them. So we've worked on those things, definitely. Objectives and key results, so really clear goals to keep everyone aligned, but then also growing transparency in the way that we work, and just encouraging teams to build relationships.
I think I agree with what you say, but one of the challenges that I see is teams are busy. So, I'm trying to think, how can I convince the other team to actually look at my board and to find time for it and to understand it's important? Because I think that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Team lead is a busy person.
Right? It's a good question. It's a good point. One of the key ones is sprint reviews. They're a great opportunity. If you do them right, they can be a really cool opportunity to demo what's going on and invite stakeholders in, and invite other team leaders in, or team members, and make it a really visual, engaging, quick demo of what's going on. Sprint reviews can sometimes become a little bit dull and become only relevant to the people within that team. And so, if you're a Scrum Master or a product owner or an Agile coach, it's a good thing to try and make those sprint reviews as engaging and welcoming as possible. That certainly helps. Yeah, and
you do them cross teams? I mean,
we do them. They're primarily for the team, but we will always invite other stakeholders where possible to come and join. There's an open invitation. Try and use that time as best as we can to show off to the wider teams what's going on. Sometimes very practically, if we have a chunk of time for a sprint review, we might say, okay, the first half, we invite other stakeholders in and we kind of show off some of the stuff that, we want to demo. And then maybe the second half of the sprint review, we then just keep that for the team where they can, maybe get into the detail a bit more about, work that's been happening in the sprint that maybe other stakeholders don't need to be involved in. It just means that you can keep that first section really engaging, really snappy, and you save time for other people that you want to bring in.
Okay, you mentioned like the importance of transparency and sharing the information. And I will show you my process. I will show you where I'm blocked, what I'm accountable of, and then we can, work together more efficiently. In this process, or in the process of the sprint review, at least today, for most of the companies that I see, most of them are like very do this thing very qualitative process. I mean, we let each and every team member speak. Each team member says what he thinks works, what doesn't work, where can we have opportunities to improve. And usually that's where it ends. And my maybe question is, do you also use like data-driven insights and quantitative data in your sprint reviews in order to support the actions that we want to do? Or do you think that like 90% of the sprint review is about what people think and feel?
Are you referring more to the sprint review or the sprint retrospective?
Both, actually, but
okay.
I guess mostly the sprint retrospective. So.
Okay, yeah, so sprint review. So in my mind, like a really clear separation is sprint review is to look at the what, and then sprint retrospective is to look at the how. Mm-hmm. So in the review, in the what, you're looking at has the piece of the product that we've developed, does it meet its objectives? Does the customer enjoy using it? If you're delivering something else, does it meet the objectives and key results that we've set out for ourselves as a team? That I think is fairly quantitative. It's fairly easy to gauge that against a metric. The sprint retrospective, in terms of ways of working, it is naturally more qualitative. And I think it's hard to try and force that into quantitative measures because you sometimes then lose out on the richness of the team's feedback in terms of how people are feeling and thinking. A tool that we've rolled out since COVID in Vodafone Digital has been an online app called Team Moods, which is a great tool for basically capturing everyone's mood on a daily basis. So all the team members get pinged an email every day at 4 o'clock, and it says, how are you feeling today? 5 different options. I'm feeling really bad, or I'm feeling amazing, and everything in between. They click on an option, they add some verbatim, and then we get a dashboard, and you can break it down by the whole of the business. You can break it down into different tribes or departments. You can then break it down into squads. So that gives you some quantitative data, which just tells you how everyone's feeling. But then from there, you can match it with themes of, okay, so this event happened or a project went live, and so that sparked moods in this context. And so we can use that, which is really handy, and that's sometimes a handy discussion topic to use in retrospectives. You can say, hey guys, team moods dropped by 1 point this sprint or whatever. Why do you think that was? And everyone might very quickly be in agreement about what was tough, and you can then get a theme out from the retrospective. Or actually everyone might have differing views, in which case you have to deal with that in the moment. But the important thing I think with retrospectives is that you don't force actions or data from them, because then you might be tempted to game any quantitative data that's come out of the retrospectives for whatever purpose. But sometimes there are actions that naturally come out of retrospectives, and the best thing you can do is just capture those in the next sprint and ensure that the team do what they need to do to improve their own processes and continue and improve. So yeah, so going back to your kind of original question, it's really hard, I think, with retrospectives when it's all about the how to get quantitative data and quantitative results. You can use, I think you can use stuff like team moods or, you know, ENPS, kind of net promoter score type metrics to help you gauge how everyone's feeling. But equally, a really important point, you can't gauge success based on an NPS or like an employee NPS or a team mood score. Because if you were starting to measure success by that, you'd just be wanting to always push the score up. And actually something like COVID might come around that drives everyone's score down, and there's nothing as a product owner or a leader that you can do about that. All you can do is respond to what's affected everyone's team moods. And so actually we don't have any, at Vodafone, we don't have any objectives to drive up team moods. The objective is to simply measure team moods and just respond to whatever's affecting team mood as quickly as we can. Because sometimes it's just the weather that makes everyone feel a bit miserable, and we can't do anything about that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so, but okay, I understand that eventually you see in the retrospective a place to improve the process and the teamwork, not necessarily the goals and metrics that you say maybe at this sprint review.
I know a lot of people do it slightly differently, but we've certainly separated sprint review very much for the work and the project, and the retrospective is certainly more for the how. How do we work together? How do we improve our ways of working? Sometimes that's very interlinked to the project or the piece of work itself, and other times it's very separate.
Yeah. It's not, sounds smart to separate those things. Great, man. We're out of time, so thank you so much. It was
a pleasure.
Fascinating.
It's great to talk to you.
Same here. And hope to speak again soon.
Yeah, you too, Nevo. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Catch you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.